Hi, this is Representative Baldessaro, and once again, this is Who's Looking Out for You. And I'm sitting here with my great friend, Sherm Packard, representative, co-host. Sherm, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Been busy, huh? Running around?
Been busy.
I tell you, what do you think? How are we looking here in the state on your part?
We're feeling really good. You know, the facts are starting to come out of what this Democratic administration has done. Thank God for Governor Sununu and his over 100 vetoes, about 100 vetoes. Otherwise, we would have had an income tax, we would have had a carbon tax, we would have had an unbelievable amount of spending, and we could go on for about 2 hours and all the bad bills that the governor had to veto to save this state and retain the New Hampshire advantage that we had. You know, he put forth a proposal to allow people to, you know, to stay home. That was voluntary, and the Democrats wanted a proposal that would mandate everybody pay part of their paycheck, which is an income tax.
God, that's crazy. That's out of control.
You know, I mean, all I can say is thank God for Governor Sununu, and if people really want to retain the state the way it is right now, I ask that you vote Republican and put us back into office so that we can put forth a budget, because we're looking anywhere from $300 to $700 million deficit.
Right. Yep.
You know, obviously, you know, everything's going to have to be very carefully looked at so that we don't raise a bunch of taxes to fill the void. And I can guarantee you that's what the Democratic mantra would be, is raise taxes, not look at where we can cut.
Right, I agree. We definitely don't want to downshift to the taxpayers. They're already taxed enough. And in a little while, we're going to get to what you brought up about higher taxes from Congress coming down our way, you know, if we're not careful. But we got another fellow state rep here, guest Representative Doug Thomas. Doug, how are you, brother?
Nice to meet you, thank you.
Yeah, and Doug is our electrical guru and on the grid and fighting all the time to get our electric bills down. Anything new happening with that stuff? Any bills coming forward? Or?
Well, nothing new since the last time we spoke, but we're always being vigilant. We are preparing some bills. I can't exactly say exactly what they might be right now because they haven't been fully put into the system, but we're looking at ways that we can reduce certain charges on your electric bill. We're looking at ways how we can still move forward on our renewable energy, but not off the backs of the ratepayers. And I hope to be sponsors or co-sponsors on some of those bills.
Oh, that's awesome. You know, Sherm and I sat on Science and Technology on one of the bills, and it was dealing with the solar, I think it was, the solar panels we were on together.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And, you know, we were talking about the, as far as like retail versus wholesale. Is there a bill going to come forward where New Hampshire's not picking winners and losers, and it's just going to be wholesale for solar, you know, farms?
We would like to do that, but before we can do that, we have to be able to pass another bill that puts the oversight and authorization of those charges back into the legislature. Right now, the Democrats changed the bill that we had a couple of years ago that gives that full power to the Public Utilities Commission. And so they're the ones that can increase certain charges on your bill without legislative oversight. So we need to change that as well back to where we have oversight on that. There are some bills that we're looking at to put in that will perhaps put the net metering charges more in line with closer to a wholesale price versus the arbitrarily set, I think right now it's 12 cents per kilowatt hour.
Right.
So we're looking at things like that, and we're looking at it to do it in a way that still supports the solar industry, but also in a way that doesn't increase your electric bills off the backs of ratepayers.
I mean, I have solar on my house. I didn't purchase it. I leased it. It was a win-win for me, you know, having like almost $400 electric bill every month. Whereas when I put the solar on, I don't generate enough to sell back, but I generate enough to save my family a couple $100 a month, you know, which is a no-brainer for as a family, you know, who lives from month, you know. I'm a retired Marine and I'm not wealthy, you know, and So I have to budget like anyone else. I'm sure Sherm, same thing at your house there. I don't think you got too many trees around your house, right?
I
Do
got
you-
too many trees to
Yeah.
probably make it worthwhile to put solar on, and
The sun don't shine over the Auburn Road,
not
huh?
that much, not that much.
I hear you. I see you got the newspaper open up there. Some interest there.
Well,
on-
it's something we can go into in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What I'd like to, Doug, and I know this keeps coming up almost every single conversation, around the state, is this net metering. And I know you explained it last time, how you can still do it, but if I'm correct, the excess energy isn't sold back under the current law. Could you briefly explain that so people understand why Republicans have voted against increasing net metering, but the towns, if they wanted to, could still do it?
Right. Well, one of the misconceptions that's always put out by the media is that we need to increase the amount of power, megawatts, in order for us to have more solar power. That presumes that there's some restriction that prevents people from doing it now. There is no restriction. You can, towns, schools, cities, and even large businesses, they can go above the 1 megawatt limit that is currently set as high as they want, up to 5 megawatts. Nothing prevents them from doing that. What they really want, or what they're really saying is, they're not going to get any subsidies if they go above the 1 megawatt. And so they want more subsidies given to them in order for them to go to a higher degree of power. That just means that there's more money being taken out of people's electric bills to pay for those subsidies. Now, net metering is a process where the Public Utilities Commission has set a rate for the utilities that must buy back excess power from a residential or business at a rate that's nearly 4 times the rate of what the wholesale rate the utility could buy for on the open market. That's a state mandated law. We need to look at that. We need to get the power back to the legislature to determine just what's a more reasonable amount that they can pay for, because that money that the utilities have to buy back, or the power that they buy back, which is 4 times the rate, they fold that as a cost of doing business into their next rate hike request, perfectly justified. So we're mandating a system where the utilities have to pay more money to buy back from residentials on solar than they could buy power back from the general market. And then they're claiming that as cost of doing business, which is true, and that raises people's rates. So we need to get away from doing that.
You know, it's kind of weird here because the Democrats, I mean, on the committee, why would people want to the Democrats want to continue to raise electric rates? I can't understand this. I mean, the people that are coming in to testify supporting this, they don't care about the taxpayers, or the consumers. They're paying with the electric rates going up.
They claim it's a small amount of money and that no price is too high to pay to protect the environment. Now, as you know, I came to college during the first Earth Day. We've been protecting and improving a lot every year. But there comes a time when we have to weigh the balance between the economy, people's pocketbooks, and how much more our effort is really going to contribute. And right now, we're at a point now where if we go too much higher, people's pocketbooks are really going to be hurt hard, and we're really not going to be adding that much to the environmental protection unless we get other countries like China and India involved at a much greater extent than they are now. Our contribution is almost negligible compared to their contributions.
And I think that's one of the falsehoods that the Democrats are putting out there, that the first thing that Biden and Harris would do is bring us back into the
The Green New Deal,
no,
garbage.
the French Accords there.
Oh,
that we
yeah, the
pulled
Paris
out.
Accord.
Paris Accords, thank you. And that this is going to solve all the problems. But if I'm correct, Doug, doesn't that pretty much, those Paris Accords, like put us up here of everything we have to do, and then China and India and Russia and Iran and places like that are down here thumbing their nose at us?
Right, because they're being classified as developing nations.
Right.
And so we would pay the brunt of that and get no real benefit out of it. So I think President Trump did a good deal to get us out of those accords. I know they weren't binding legally, but it was a feel-good thing, but we were going to be forced to abide by it in order to set the example for the rest of the world, and that would have cost us probably billions of dollars.
I heard it
if not
was like
trillions.
within the first 10 years.
Yeah.
And then China got a waiver, and what, India
China,
or some
India.
of the, some of these
I
other
mean,
countries.
almost all these countries
Yeah.
that are, aren't doing a darn thing to, clean the air up and clean the water up, are just thumbing their nose at us, and we're supposed to take the brunt of it and do everything when, like you said, Doug, we do, what, 15%?
Right, the U.S. is about 15% of the world's CO2 pollution. New Hampshire is negligible compared to all of that. So for us to get involved with any type of a carbon tax or anything like that would have really zero effect on the environment, but it would have a major effect on our economy. It would almost shut down our economy. To have an effect that would even be close to doing what they want to do, we'd have to raise the price of gasoline nearly $8 to $10 a gallon, and that just isn't going to happen. So we really need to look at the other countries. I think you saw that when this COVID pandemic first started and people stopped working, the largest effect we saw on the environment came right out of China. The pollution decrease was stark as they took from satellite pictures. China is a huge polluter, and they need to be held accountable.
I remember back in the Olympics, 4 or 5 years ago, back then, you couldn't even walk around Beijing because it wasn't fog, it was the pollution that was so thick in the air. And people were getting sick because of it. And yet we're giving China a free ride under the Paris Accords.
That's right.
I don't know. For the life of me, I don't understand it.
I was in Hong Kong back in 1989 as a Marine, and it's the same thing over there. You look up at the sky, nothing like New Hampshire, where you can see beautiful blue sky, the stars.
Right.
It looks like it's black all the time, or most of the time anyways there. But when we're talking about taxes and other stuff, you brought up a good thing on how we've got some, we got some heavy lifting to do here come 2021 with the budget. Because like today, for instance, I just got a little card here from Matt Mowers there talking about these taxes just don't affect us here local also. It goes from Washington, D.C. on down. And, Congressman Pappas, he's not doing the state of New Hampshire any benefit or no help whatsoever. Because if you look at, you all got this in the mail, take a look at it. Don't throw it in the trash. Look and see what our congressmen are doing from top, and then take a look at what we're doing in New Hampshire. People say that, the Republicans are going to kick Grammy off the bridge, and we're taking away this, and we're killing the environment and the water, and that's all false. We care about drinking water.
It's outright lies.
Yeah, outright lies.
They're outright lies.
If you read the Londonderry Times, and this is why I'm very peed off about this stuff here. You got Democrats in town that have nothing better to do but to write in the paper, and they can't tell you the truth. Ronald Reagan once said, "Trust but verify." This really gets me going on when I read this stuff here, and I'm saying, what the heck is going on? Why can't they talk about the issues instead of going on the tax? Have you figured that out yet?
Well, I mean, let's look at Chris Pappas and Annie Custer. Okay, if you look at their voting records, they voted 100% with Nancy Pelosi. 100% with Nancy Pelosi, and yet they accuse us Republicans of voting with our party. And I mean, let's stop being hypocritical about this.
You ain't kidding.
Most of the time, you vote with your party, whether you're Democrat or Republican, okay? Because that's the philosophy we believe in. But, we're constantly being blamed, well, Republicans just vote the party line.
Every 2 years, we're a racist.
And we're racist, and we're
Every
everything
2
else
years.
under the sun.
Yeah.
And, this is why I brought this particular article. It's by one of the Democrat candidates running for office. And let me read it.
That's a husband and wife team that wrote that, right?
Well, it wasn't that. It was Louise Pettit.
Oh, the one that calls us a Nazi, or
Yes.
shared that article there about Republicans and Nazis.
And and it reads here, I want to contribute my skills and vision to help solutions to those pressing issues, the rise in unemployment and the chronic underemployment in our state. We have been rated as one of the most lowest unemployment
Right.
states in the country. I think it was, 2.3 before the pandemic hit. Where are we doing better now than any other state in the Northeast and most states
of
in
the
the
country,
country?
yeah.
We're doing better. And, she's taken a stab and saying that, unemployment and underemployment, this is the kind of stuff that is just absolute false. We had one of the best economies in the country, if not the
under
world, for
President
God's
Trump,
sakes.
that's right.
And then she's taken, blame. Well, she's not really blaming anybody, but if we hadn't had this pandemic kick in, we'd probably be at around 2%
That's
unemployment.
right, and we don't have the people to fill all the jobs.
We don't.
But under President Trump, a lot of people got off their couches and went back to work because the American dream is alive and well, and we are coming back. What was it, like almost 900,000 jobs this time?
I forget the
you know,
number,
somewhere-
but I mean,
somewhere around
the
there.
unemployment rate nationally is coming down. But I mean,
This whole thing reminds me of, this is happening nationwide too, brings back a Karl Marx comment where he said in his advice, always blame your opponent for the thing that you are doing.
Right.
It'll confuse the heck out of them.
Isn't that
Now, I'm seeing that everywhere this year.
Right. I brought in some notes here that I had that were sent to me there. And we have a Democrat rep in town. We all love her. She's an awesome person. But the thing is, sometimes we have, like I got Democrat family members, I wouldn't leave my wallet around, okay? Because I'd be afraid, that they'd help themselves. But anyways, I'm not saying that she would take our money. I'm saying that she votes for all the taxes. Just to give you an idea, she voted for creating a new tax on capital gains, HB 686, creating an income tax with rates set by unelected bureaucrats, SB 1 in the budget, for creating an income tax and new taxes on capital gains, vaping and sports betting, increasing business taxes, HB 2, for increasing state spending by massive 1.5 million, or 13%, going against on the gun laws. This is what, when you say I'm voting for a nice person, what you get. And it has to stop because she is not doing you any justice. We all don't have deep pockets in Londonderry. So you have people like Doug, Sherm, myself, your other representatives. We all work. I mean, I'm retired, and Sherm's still partially working. You're retired, right?
I'm retired.
But the bottom line is we earned where we got. And every time you take money out of somebody's pocket, their quality of life diminishes.
Yeah.
Would you agree, Doug?
I agree.
What say you?
Well, yeah, because they always say it's just a little bit more, but those little bit mores add up.
It's only a penny.
And our people on fixed income in this town, we have a large population of people on fixed income in this town. They can't afford these increases every single time. And that's who I think about, Maybe I can afford an extra $10 a month. Maybe someone else can't. So we think about those things when these little things come through. It just, there's got to be a better way, and we've proven we can do it before. And raising taxes, raising fees, that's just not the way.
well, we know one of the things that Dan Feltus wants to do is increase the business taxes.
Right.
Susan Almy, who's chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, wanted to repeal the business tax decreases that it took us 20 years to do, 6 years ago. And, businesses started coming into town. Businesses were expanding. I mean, obviously, COVID set a halt to a lot of that, but they're coming back. The worst thing we could do right now is to raise business taxes like the Democrats wanted to do this past session. They wanted to raise the business taxes by 12.5%. 12.5%, they wanted to raise business taxes, and that was just the start. Then they wanted to go further. They wanted to bring it back up to 8.5% that it was, and when we brought it down, businesses started expanding, businesses were coming to New Hampshire, and our economy was booming. The worst thing you could do is put more taxes onto people
Right.
and more taxes onto business when they're trying to recover at this point.
You know, there's one thing I wanted to bring up since we're on that, what you just talked about. I want to clarify something for most people that don't understand. The statewide property tax that's on your tax bill is money that the state takes out of one pocket because you're already paying school tax in another pocket to the local. They take this money out and then they give it to the school systems there. Whenever you keep saying the state needs to put in more money, the state is you, us, everyone there, that we have to raise taxes. This is why we have not done that. We've come up with a figure, and we all of us Londonderry reps make sure that Londonderry gets their fair share. But if you look at, we tried reducing the state property tax so that money there, you know, in the schools, you know, would get certain grants and other stuff there, but our Democrat state rep voted against it. I mean, we're doing everything we can to keep government out of your pocket, out of your home, but when you send us a Democrat up there, they vote like puppets with everything else to tax and spend and go after your guns.
Well, the biggest fallacy is that we've been hearing, and this has been going on for years, coming from the Democrats, that if we pass an income tax, your property taxes are going to go down drastically.
No.
Well, there hasn't been a
Yeah.
state in this country that's happened.
That's right.
Every time a state passes an income tax, the property taxes might go down a little bit the first year, and then they skyrocket up. And all you have to do is look at other parts of New England, Connecticut, New Jersey, Massachusetts, all of them. You put an income tax in, and instead of actually reducing property taxes, the government finds way, and its Democratic government finds way to spend it. And so your property taxes don't go down. That's 100% fallacy. And to think that it's going to be any different in this state than it was in every other state that made that same promise and it didn't happen, it's just not going to happen.
You know, people move to New Hampshire for a reason. And I feel that as soon as they get here, they very soon forget why they moved here. And so we have to keep reminding these people that New Hampshire is the way we are is because of our background history, because of our fiscal policy, because of our no tax situation. We don't want any more new taxes here. If you want new taxes, stay where you were, because you'll get more new taxes here. We welcome new people in here if they come here because they want to be here and they want to live under the advantages that New Hampshire has given people due to its policies over the last couple centuries, really.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can say one thing there, that some of the calls I got from local residents there, they don't even go to the doctor. They're under the ACA. And just to go to the doctor, it costs them $150 for that appointment. Then if they need an operation under the Obamacare, they need another $9,000 or $10,000.
Depending on what their deductible is.
Deductible there. So when people are pushing this insurance here that the president is trying to get fixed, it's not working for you. The calls I get are unbelievable. We never had those high deductibles until ACA. We never had doctors dropping, people up until Obamacare. So for the people that have called me and with the issues there about the Obamacare, help is on its way, because the president there signed in an executive order on, helping with some better insurance plans that are out there that are coming together. And he also took out that tax on, what is it, if you do the insurance, but there's a tax that you got to pay?
Well, it was mandatory, everybody have insurance,
Yeah.
and that was, I think the courts are the ones that got rid of that.
And I have a son, 27 years old, who believes he's invincible like Superman, and he does he's a field producer for a TV show, and he didn't want insurance. He said, Dad, I'll pay, if I gotta go, I'll pay for it out of my pocket. I got enough money in the bank.
Right.
But yet, I'm glad they took care of it and got rid of it, so he wouldn't have to pay a couple thousand in taxes.
I think they also got rid of the taxes on the medical devices too.
Yeah, that's right.
That was another obscene thing.
That was the best thing going forward, because that affected a lot of veterans.
Yeah.
They're coming home with no legs and arms and have to pay taxes on getting new arms and legs.
I mean, realistically, we have to figure something out, okay, so that people aren't devastated by not having an insurance if they get
Right.
sick or something, okay? I get it. We've got to take care of people in that manner. But let's look back at what how the ACA came into power. Let's remember the words of Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
We've got to pass this so we can read it and understand what's in it
After, right.
after it was passed. And let's at what President Obama said. You can keep your doctor. And what happened? The minute the bill was passed, thousands, millions of people lost their doctor.
Right.
I'd like to be clear on one issue, though. Absolutely, I think you and I, everyone else agrees, absolutely, we will keep the pre-existing conditions.
Absolutely.
In anything we do. That,
Yeah.
I've always felt that way.
You know Sherm Packard there, what most people don't know, was part of the reps that put pre-existing in New Hampshire. We already had that. Of course, we had a wait list, and we were funding it every year, you know, and then we finally got to the point we cleared our wait list. We already had Medicaid. We already had insurance, the children's program. I can't remember what it was called there.
Well, we put the expanded Medicaid. We put the expanded Medicaid in back in what was it, 14, 15,
13, yeah,
15,
somewhere
I think.
around there,
You know, the expanded Medicaid went in, and to be perfectly honest, I voted against it at that
did
time.
too.
For the simple reason is that at the time we were getting a tremendous amount of money from the federal government to pay for it, and the belief was that you know, if we stopped getting that money, that it would go away. Well, that doesn't happen with programs like that.
Right.
The minute you put them in, you're stuck with them, and it's going to continue. Now, there was about 50,000 New Hampshire residents that were on that Medicaid expansion, and I would say probably that's something that is never going to go away.
Right.
That's just reality, and that, you know, we're going to have to deal with it, and that's going to have to be dealt with in the new budget and every future budget coming up.
And we have to find a funding source.
We'll have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we might have to make some cuts someplace else, but again, you know, I can guarantee you, if the Democrats are in charge, it's going to be an income tax and it's going to be a sales tax. You had the representative from Nashua that actually put a sales tax in,
Right, yeah.
along with the income tax.
And our Democrat state rep voted in support of this stuff here, and it's a shame here in Londonderry. But
Yeah, I mean, that would have destroyed the southern part of the state, because I think it was, what, 4.5%, if I remember, that income tax that the rep from Nashua put in. And, well, it's, you know, the speech was, well, it's low enough where Massachusetts residents, I mean, you go to any mall in southern New Hampshire or store in southern New Hampshire, half the cars in the yard are Massachusetts. They're
Right.
coming over here to buy, so they can avoid the Massachusetts sales tax.
Right.
Well, if there's only 1.5%, 2% difference between Mass and New Hampshire, they're not going to come.
That's right.
I mean, that's a fact.
Right.
They're not going to come for 1 or 2%. They are going to come for 5.5%.
Now, I have a question. Sherm, you've been around a long time, so has Al, up at leadership as well. We have a lot of freshman candidates that are running this year for the first time, and some of them are being asked either in surveys or through newspaper interviews, what would you do to solve the budgetary crisis because of COVID? And so these are freshmen that have no experience up there. What would you say to them? What would be the best advice to give to these freshmen coming in far as dealing with how we're going to attack the budget?
Well, I mean, there's no question it's going to be difficult.
Right.
I mean, it's going to be very difficult. There is going to be some pain. I mean, you have two solutions. You deal with it, you handle
Right.
it like you would be if you had a family situation where, let's say, the husband and wife were working, and the husband or the wife got laid off or something of that nature, and while they're looking for a new job, they're going to be hurting, and they're going to have to make the adjustments that we're going to have to make at the state.
Right.
Because there's only 1 or 2 solutions. We work with it, we fix it, and as we come back and we get out of this crisis, I'm absolutely positive that our economy and our will jump back up again.
Oh,
There's
no
no
doubt.
question about it. I mean, Governor Sununu has just done a fantastic job, coming through this. Probably one of the best in the country. There's no question about that. Or you're going to have massive tax increases. massive.
Right.
And it's going to take an income tax, and it's going to take
That's if
a
the
sales
Democrats
tax.
are in
That's,
charge.
that, and
But
that's
we're
if
not
the
gonna.
Democrats in
Well,
charge.
you know,
That's what it is,
Right.
Doug. It's going to be difficult.
The former sounds like it's a temporary measure. The latter sounds like you're never going to get rid of it.
You'll never get once an income or a sales tax passes in this state, you'll never get rid of it.
Right, that's right.
Okay, you'll never get rid of it.
Right.
So yeah, it's a temporary. Just like it was temporary back in 11 and 12 when we came off when I was the Republican leader, and I told the Democrats, you're going to have an $800 million deficit
Right.
because they took so much money.
One-time
That's when the
spending
one-time
stuff,
spending
yeah.
money from the federal government that we got. I think it was $450 million and some other one-time money, and it actually turned out to be $850 million.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had to make some tough choices in 11 and 12.
And we didn't I don't think we downshift, except we made teachers and firemen, I think, pay $2 more in their retirement versus going after the taxpayers, because that was their money. So we were able to keep that, I believe, on.
I mean, being realistic, is there going to be some pain? Yeah, there is going to be some pain. But, I mean, you have the choice. Either you take a little bit of pain for a year, or you take pain for the rest of your life. Those are the two choices you're going to have.
I agree. I mean, we're prepared, but something that, to answer the question you asked there, what to tell them, my answer was, because of the COVID, we do not know what the revenues are coming in. There were, that I cannot decide on where to cut at this time until we see what areas got hit. Okay, then we'll be able to give a good answer where we want to cut, because I have an idea in some areas, but right now, because of COVID, and because of monies that are short, and we don't know if the business taxes yet, I think we're still right above, right? They haven't hit the threshold yet?
They haven't hit the threshold where,
So-
that was the trigger that was put in there, and that had to do with the business taxes.
Right,
The
yep.
business tax increases.
So we don't know where we're
that
at.
If the if we hit the trigger, then the business taxes would freeze and then eventually go up. But we didn't hit the trigger, so we aren't going to have to raise the business
And
taxes.
that's, but we still have what, until June? When's
Well, the second
yeah,
year,
the second year.
it ends July. I
Right.
mean, the new budget has to
The
be
end of
done
June.
July
Yeah,
1st.
right.
So we have some very good experience, though, in people that sit in the finance committees. And
In the
so-
Ways and Means.
And Ways and
Yeah.
Means. They will be our stopgap measure to see just what the best course of action is.
Non-major is one of the best, I mean,
Yeah.
under projected revenues and.
Pat Abrami's
Yeah,
really
Pat,
sharp too.
yeah.
Yep.
But I mean, the bottom line is, we don't know how long this COVID thing is going to last. We don't know when a vaccine is going to be available. I mean, the sooner the better, and the sooner the better that a vaccine is available, and we can get the, hopefully American people go along with it, and it's a safe vaccine. We can get out of this situation.
But I can tell you, there was a bill under the Senate Bill 74 the Democrats put forward, was doubling and tripling various fees under HB 682. That was a House bill. There was another one against, they were, and I'm talking our state rep from Londonderry, was against reducing the statewide property tax, against reducing the interest and dividends tax, against reducing electric rates by allowing more use of methane as a fuel. That was a House bill. Against reducing electric rates by distributing all proceeds from Reggie sales to ratepayers. This is money that we were trying to give back, that was coming in excess under Reggie. Regional
Greenhouse
gas initiative. Then there was a mandatory family leave plan. If we used their plan, that was 63 new jobs. We would have had to put 50 million into that just to get it started.
And that's where you would have lost, and that's where the income tax one of the income taxes came in, because, it was mandatory that you contribute 0.5% of your income every week to this plan.
Right.
I believe that was the part when one of the Democrats got in the well and spoke and said that this was not an income tax, it was only a tax on your wages.
Right,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
It's not
Yeah.
income tax. But it was mandatory for everybody, whether you used it or
Mandatory
not.
for everybody.
And the governor, thank God for the governor vetoing all these tax bills that, passed the Democrat House and the Democrat Senate. And then between us, the Republicans, they didn't have the votes to override the governor. We sustained them all except two.
Yep.
Yeah, and then, what was it? Some of them omnibus bills had like 60-something bills attached to them. Some never even got a hearing.
Yeah, there was a couple that came over this last, when were we, in UNH when we were there, about a month or so ago, that had multiple bills on it, and a good portion of the Senate bills that were on it never had a hearing in the House. But there comes another falsehood. You know, the Democrats are saying that, you know, that we're against paid family leave. We're not against paid family leave. We're against mandatory, taking money out of your salary for it. The governor had a plan. He had a plan that could work, and that was voluntary.
Didn't he team up with Maine and Vermont?
Well, we were working with Vermont,
Mm-hmm.
and that didn't quite pan out. But he still had, a plan, and he had insurance companies that were willing to step in and try it. And the the Democrats are going around, especially Dan Felter, saying that, we're against paid family leave.
But if they want family medical leave, they can get it. They just don't need government involved. They can buy it. The companies
it's
can
available.
provide it. It's available. Why do you need government? Because you start a new government program and it's there for life and never get rid of it.
And it's not going to stay at 0.5%.
Right. That's
That's some of the other states that have tried this. It's been proven. I think Vermont was one of them. I mean, it didn't even come close to paying for itself, and they had to keep raising how much money was taken out of your paycheck every week.
So what do you think, Doug?
I think
going with this?
I think we should vote Republican, get us back the majority so we can put forward some of the real good bills that will move this state forward while still keeping the New Hampshire advantage.
You know what most people don't realize, I'm sure Sherm does, he's been up there riding a horse and buggy and everything, since I always mess with him there because, he's always made a big difference for the state of New Hampshire. He's always looked out for him. But if you take a look at what's going on over the years, for 100 years, New Hampshire's been run by Republicans. Mm-hmm. And that's why you don't have a sales tax or a payroll tax. Only within the last 14 years, the Democrats really took over, because we've been in the minority, four times?
Four times
and
since,
then 3 times
since 06.
Since I've been there, and 3 times in the majority. And those 4 times, we got to keep fighting them to stop trying to put a tax, stop trying to take away people's guns, stop trying to give the BS about loopholes at a gun show. You have to have a background check at a gun show. That's BS. If somebody tells you don't, that's crazy.
Right.
And why are they trying to fix gun problems here in New Hampshire when they can't show me where they're broken? Have you figured that out?
I haven't.
Huh?
And then I see in her article also that I was referred to before, she said she's a believer in the Second Amendment right, which all fair-minded adults will agree entails supporting sensible control gun legislation.
But
Well, I'm not sure what that is.
what does that mean, sensible control? New Hampshire, we're one of the safest states in the country to raise a family and work.
And we recently passed constitutional carry, and people said it was going to be the Wild West if we did that.
Yeah.
And we've had nothing like that before. We knew we would have nothing because Vermont had it for many years, and they had no issues.
You ain't kidding.
And Vermont's one of the most liberal states in the
That's right.
country.
And they've had it since their existence. You're right, Vermont.
right.
And there's no heavy shooting, killing. No. Maine is up there with us. Maine, Vermont, and New Hampshire, the safest places around, to raise a family. So why are we trying to fix something that's not broken? I'm going to ask the Democrats to stop watching CNN on the killings in Detroit, Chicago, and Maryland. Has nothing to do with New Hampshire.
Oh, but Al, CNN and MSNBC won't tell you that.
No, they won't tell you. That's right.
They won't tell you that.
That's right.
They won't tell you the truth that the murder rates in these Democratic-run cities have skyrocketed.
Yep.
They won't tell you that.
And I want to see bills that are just being rehashed from California being introduced into New Hampshire when we just don't need them.
I don't understand that,
It's
yeah.
so obvious. They're just being rehashed. California, New Hampshire, there's no similarity whatsoever. We don't need California bills here.
Nope, not at all. Like Sherm's on transportation. Weren't they trying to do something with the
They wanted to bring
inspections?
the California system in, which is much lower standards. Much higher standards than any other place in the country.
Wow, that's a damn shame.
And we put in OBD testing 15, 18 years ago when I was chairman, and we did it because of the 4 counties, mainly in New Hampshire, Rockingham, Merrimack, Hillsborough, and Stratford, that were above government regulations. And we put in OBD testing. I made sure that there was a way for low-income people not to have their cars taken off the road. They were given a time to fix it, and it's worked. We're now well in containment. I mean, under control. We aren't over the limit anymore like we used to be, and it's working.
Right.
And I would say that at some point, we might be able to get rid of that, because all the new cars are coming through with the required stuff anyways. But we just signed another 5-year contract to do OBD testing, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I remember they were trying to go after the sound on a motorcycle.
Yes.
And, they wanted cops out there and spend millions of dollars on this new equipment to check the decimals or something there and have noise cops out there and all that. And you were a big player on stopping that. I don't know if,
Yeah.
Well,
if you were there when that happened.
Well, I read
That
about
was-
it at the time.
That was,
Excuse me.
for years, we've had on the books a sound, a way to test the sound on motorcycles. And it was basically the only test that was available when we put that in, and that goes back to the 90s, when I was one of my first terms in the legislature. And we put it in, but it was technically for off-road vehicles, but we needed something. And 5, 6, 7 years ago, we had J2522 put in by the Society of Automotive Engineers, came up with an on-road test. And we instituted that. In fact, we were the first state in the country to institute that, and that's when I was one of the years I was chairman. And we put it in, and we put it into effect, and now we have a solid on-road test that was put together by the Society of Automotive Engineers. And we're still one of the few states that have it in the country, and it's working fine.
Well, yep.
Now, are some motorcycles too loud?
Yeah.
There is a law against any motorcycle that has straight pipes on it, but the problem is
They're
some
out of state.
people, well, they're out of state, but some people need to learn how to ride,
Right.
okay? And I mean, and that's the bottom line. If you ride a motorcycle properly, even if your pipes are a little loud, you're not going to be obnoxious. But when some people intentionally try to be obnoxious.
Well, a lot of these people come in from out of state too with their motorcycles during the summer months and during bike week and all that stuff, and aren't aware of our laws. Yeah, so if we try to raise them up higher than Massachusetts and Vermont, before you know it, we're going to be ticketing everyone that comes into Massachusetts and keep away out. We're a tourist state.
Well, it was especially bad on the seacoast. That's where we're getting a lot of complaints.
Those big houses over there, they didn't want them
And,
riding through their street.
Well, they didn't want anybody riding through their streets. But I mean, it was that's where we were getting most of the complaints from. And I worked intensively with the chiefs of police over there, plus the state police, putting this program together. And I mean, once we put it in, the problems pretty much went away. Wow. Because now when you go to inspect your motorcycle once a year, you've got to have that test done.
Oh, okay, yeah. Now, Doug, you've been knocking on doors and stuff. I mean, talking with a lot of people and everything else. And
Right.
What are you hearing out there from the people?
Well, it's been pretty good, generally speaking. People are very receptive, for one thing, for us coming around. There's only been one or two that wouldn't come to the door because they were afraid of COVID. But I wear a mask, of course, and we engage in conversations. People, the first thing that perks them up is when I talk to them about an income tax. And just about everyone I've spoke to, with maybe one exception, said, we don't want an income tax. Well, great. Well, then vote for us.
Right.
Because the other side wants one. But they've been very receptive. I've been very pleased. And I hang my cards and notes on the doors, and I press forward. And so we're getting people engaged. They're interested. Only one person said they weren't going to vote. They weren't a citizen. Fine. And
Well,
so
that's good.
So yeah, that's good. So that was good. So I'm looking forward to seeing them at the polls, and I always tell them to stop by and say hi as they pass by our fence.
I driving around town, and I was putting signs out and other stuff and help fix some signs. and I see probably, I don't know, maybe 10, 15 Biden signs on different homes, and and when I drive by, I think in my mind, and I automatically say, that house must be wealthy because they want their taxes to go up. That house don't care about killing babies and abortions that are, late-term abortions, or after their abortion is botched and the baby is born alive, just let them lay on the table and die. That house don't care. When I see that sign, it goes in my mind. That's what I think. It's a shame how, why would, a Londonderry resident who already is taxed enough, taxed high, want to support somebody that wants to raise their taxes?
The Harris Biden ticket has already told the people you're going to raise your taxes 20% at least, and even more, and they will take away your guns, and in one case, Harris said she would come out to get the people that supported Trump. Now, I don't think we want that in a vice president.
No,
but I will tell you one funny story though. I was out door knocking the other day with CD1 candidate Matt Mowers, and we went to one house. Nobody was there, but the house next to it had a Biden sign there. It's okay. So we started to go back to the car, and a young boy from that house came running over and said, "Are you Matt Mowers?" And Matt, said, "Well, yes, I am." And he jumped up and down and said, "I can't believe I'm meeting Matt Mowers." And called his mother over and said, "Look, we got Matt Mowers here." And mother said, "Oh, he's a political junkie." He's about 10, 11 years old.
Right.
And had a very pleasant conversation, and she even asked, she asked Matt, "Now tell my son why studying math is important," and he told him all those things there and everything. So sometimes you never know. One sign,
Right.
maybe they were that way, but maybe for Matt and the rest of us, we made a good impression on her.
That's
and
awesome.
You just never know. So that was a really good experience.
That's outstanding. I mean, it's. I just don't. I was a Democrat for many years. My grandfather, mayor of Cambridge, Massachusetts, 4 terms. I grew up with Tip O'Neill, the Kennedys. But that party left me. We used to care for the elderly, the Democrats. They used to care for the working people. Now, you look at the stimulus here because they're fighting, stopping people from getting money to help them pay the ones out of work, because they want to give money to the illegal aliens. And they want money going in other areas that have nothing to do with the COVID, with people not working.
That 2.2 trillion
So, yeah.
bill that they passed in the House, I think close to $1 trillion of it was unnecessary.
You ain't kidding.
That had nothing to do with the COVID at that point. And I'm glad you both brought up this, undocumented, if you want to call it. But another bill that the Democrats passed this year
License.
is allowing illegal, undocumented people to get a driver's license. Now, during the hearing, I found this very interesting. Somebody got up and one of the people that was testifying said, "No, we got to do this. These people need their license and stuff." So I asked them, I said, "Didn't these people enter the country illegally? They broke federal law." "Oh, well, they didn't technically break federal law." I said, "They entered the country illegally." Now, my grandparents came from Poland
My
legally.
family from Italy. Yeah.
They came here legally. So I said, okay, so they still broke federal law by crossing the border
Right.
illegally. Then they said, well, these people have been driving around the state of New Hampshire for, years without a driver's license. Now, if you or I were to get stopped without a driver's license, we'd get arrested
Yeah.
and busted.
Pay a
Okay.
hefty fine.
So they entered the country illegally. They're driving in New Hampshire without a license for years illegally, and now we're going to reward them with a driver's license. And the argument was, well, it'll make our roads safer.
Yeah,
I haven't figured that out
I
yet.
haven't
I'm
either, yeah.
still wondering
I was
how it's
shocked
going to
when I
make our
heard
roads
that,
safer.
yeah.
And they said, well, they'll go out and get insurance because they don't have any insurance now. So they're driving illegally, they don't have a license, they don't have insurance, and we're going to reward them.
Does giving a diploma to someone make him any smarter?
Yeah. Well, that bill was it was a House bill, HB 397, and once again, our Londonderry Democrat state rep was the only one out of 7 of us 6 Republicans, 1 Democrat. She voted with her Democrats there for that bill, okay? And it was, basically, if you look at their driver's license, that's the nose under the tent to get illegals to go vote because all you need is a driver's license. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out, what they're trying to do. And why would Democrats fight us all the time on an ID? Oh, they don't need an ID. Why? Oh, they don't need to verify the signature. How come? What are they trying to do?
We have a problem in this country. There's no question about it. Okay, we've got what 12, 13 million, people
More.
here that cross the border illegally. All right, most from some Central America and South America. There hasn't been an administration, Democrat, Republican, that has really worked to fix the problem. And the problem needs to be fixed. There's no question about that. With my association with NCSL, I've met a lot of legislators from, the western part of the state, California, Washington, and those areas. And the bottom line is, these people are doing work that most of us probably wouldn't do.
Right.
So they need to be here. I'm not questioning the ability, their need to be here, but we need to come up with a system that brings them into the country illegally so that all the taxes are paid. And if, maybe I wouldn't go along with citizenship, but, maybe some kind of permanent status. That's just reality.
Right, that's the key, is to get them here for, they really want to come here to
Yes.
work, make some money.
Right.
But this new group of people that have come here over the past years,
lot of crime.
they're not like our ancestors. Our ancestors came here and they left their country behind permanently, and they adopted America. People coming here now are closer, so they have more access to their old country, and those old ways kind of die hard. So we want their work, but I'm not so sure that we need to have them vote here.
Yeah, but look
because
at the
they're
game.
not-
Well, I'd say I
they're
don't
not
go.
permanent.
I don't go along with citizenship if they
Right,
came
yeah,
here
right.
illegally.
I don't
But there
either.
are people that believe people should vote wherever they go, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that means they believe in
Well,
no
that's the
countries.
case. Military, as a Marine for 22 years, I had to vote absentee.
That's right.
I could not vote in that state I was stationed at. Here in New Hampshire, why are the Democrats taking us to court? Okay, so college students who are paying non-residence fees can vote in New Hampshire. They can do absentee, just like the military that's stationed here in New Hampshire.
If they're
I
paying,
can't figure
if
this
they're
out.
paying
Why?
out-of-state tuition money, they should not be voting in New Hampshire.
Yeah, so I was thinking about filing legislation there that says that if a college student is a non-resident, votes in New Hampshire, then the college is automatically to charge them residency, fees, not
Right.
non-resident. How do you think they'll accept that? You think they'll stop pushing them buses, taking those kids and buying them pizza to go vote?
It's wrong. It's plain and simply wrong. And we're hoping that House Bill 1264, which I was the prime sponsor of, would have fixed that.
Right.
But there still seems to be a couple of loopholes.
What's the
in
one
there.
that's in the court? Is it SB3?
SB3.
SB3, that's still
SB3,
in the courts.
that's still in the courts. 1264 did go through the courts. It's not saying it's not going to go through it again.
Right.
But we were pretty sure that was going to fix the problem, that you have to be a resident of the state. If somebody moves from any place else in the country and moves to New Hampshire, buys a house here, or rents an apartment, they have 60 days to transfer their license and their registration.
Right.
If somebody isn't a resident of the state of New Hampshire, a legal resident, why do the Democrats want them to be able to vote?
Right.
Why, when they aren't a resident, they're only living here, temporarily? I mean, if somebody goes to, the snowbirds go to Florida, they still vote in New Hampshire.
That's right.
Even though they're down there
Yep.
for 4, 5, 6 months. New Hampshire is their home. If they move to Florida permanently, then they become a resident of Florida. But if you're not a resident of the state of New Hampshire, for the life of me, I can't understand why people want them to be able to determine who their state representative is, their state senator is, when they're not living here, as a resident, and they're going to be gone as soon as they're, done either their job or college or something else. We had campaign workers coming in and living in some of the senators' houses,
Yep, Betty Lasky out of Nashua had like.
and Martha Fuller Clark.
Martha Fuller Clark,
They were
yep.
using that
Democrats.
as their address, and they were going to vote. And the minute the election was over, they left.
Yep.
They knew they weren't going to be here, but they were under our old laws, they were allowed to vote.
And
That's wrong.
Absolutely.
If you're, everybody should have the right to vote, but you need to be a resident of that state. If you're not a resident of the state, get an absentee ballot from the state
Right.
you come from and where you live and where your residency is, and vote there.
I can't understand why the Democrats support this here. You know, I mean, it opens the door for fraud. That's what it does. And the Democrat, oh no, they should be able to vote. It's constitutional. That's a bunch of BS. I don't care what anybody says. You're trying to steal the election by bringing in people to vote that don't even have any intention to live here. You agree, Doug?
I agree. They can vote in their home state.
They can vote in their home
Absentee.
state by absentee ballot.
You know, my fear is that they do both.
Before we close, there's something we got about 2 minutes left there. When you read these newspapers here, and I wanted to touch on here, trust but verify. You can do a Google search there and go take a look at what the president has done, okay, the Trump administration accomplishments to empower Americans with disability. I was just going through this today, Health and Human Services. I was shocked. I'm a disabled veteran, and I was shocked that, and I never knew a lot of this stuff here, what the president and his team have done for disabled people in the country with all these different things going on. I mean, it'll take me too long, and I'll probably have to do it at another show, but I would recommend you do a Google search and just do Trump accomplishments. Don't listen to CNN, MSNBC, and all that other garbage, because they're gonna feed you BS. Go and do the search yourself and see what's out there if you're a disabled person like myself from the military, and see what's there. I thought that was very important. First time I seen this here, I didn't even know that Trump did this here. All those different things on protections, rights, protections, and everything else for disabled people. I was impressed.
I don't think you'd have time in a complete show, Al, to list all of the accomplishments that President Trump has done.
No, I don't think so either, but at least I want people to trust but verify. Stop believing somebody that says something and think that's gospel. You know what I mean? Go and research it yourself, because the Democrats are lying to you, and I'm not as scared to call them out and say you're a liar. Doug, how do people get in touch with you? We got
Doug.thomasnh@gmail.com and 603-490-3226 anytime.
Sherm?
My cell phone is 505-5738, and you can email me at any point at Sherm_Packard@juno.com.
And I'm 858-3535, and if you want a sign from any of the candidates, call us. If you want a Trump sign, give me a call, 858-3535. Once again, this is Who's Looking Out for You? The Republican Team. Thank you.